first and most important thing is first, Auntie Beryl, bless her, laid to rest on Wednesday. West Ham fan through and through, claret and blue. Jeff's mum, Auntie Beryl, Tony's auntie, and all the family went up to West Ham the day after the funeral yesterday to take in the game in Auntie Beryl's honour. So lots of love to the lot of you. In terms of the game, it wasn't a classic, was it? Let's be perfectly honest with you. But we will take it. And I think, look, maybe there's a certain level of double standards here, but only if you don't apply the context. And I think that the double standards would be had David Moyes, I was going to say had Lopetegui have served it up. If Lopetegui had served it up, we'd be delighted because it means he would have sorted out the defence. But and let's be fair, under Ruud van Nistelrooy, they have got one win in 11 games. One win in 11 games. And that was against us. How bad were we against Lopetegui? So, but I think if Moyes had served it up last season, he'd have got a lot of stick for it. But there would have been context. After, all that time of being here, you'd expected after 4 years Moyes to have been building towards sort of something else about that. I do think there's context here. There's a bit of a repair job. And I do believe that when Potter probably came into West Ham, he probably looked at everything. He probably looked at the squad. He looked at the team. He looked at the defence. And I'd imagine he probably said to his coaching staff, we can get back-to-back wins. We can get a couple of clean sheets and sort that defence out. That's where we got to start. I think that was probably the level of his ambition, and I think anything else is probably going to have to wait. And so I think with that in mind, it was a good result. And I don't want to be too, downbeat on it, but it was boring. It was a bit crap, let's be fair. That was a very, very uninspiring central midfield. And I do think that sort of played its part in particularly Kudus having a bit of a poor and a quiet game. And I do also, I think, had Paqueta have been fit, he would have played in that game. He would have dropped either Ward-Prowse, Alvarez or Souček. He'd have played Paqueta in that game, and I think there would have been a little bit more fluidity and a few more balls going forward. But anyway, look, win's a win. What I wanted to do, as you probably noticed from the title of this video, is pick out Todibo again. Now, I know I did a video about Todibo, it was yesterday morning. That was before the game, and I think I put like class act or something like that up on the thumbnail. He is top quality. I know we've only played Leicester, and they were bad. I mean, really, really bad. The gap between the Championship and the Premier League is a conversation for another day, and we will do that. But it's getting wider and wider, and in many respects, FFP has worked, hasn't it? It's done what it was meant to do, which is basically sort of get some semblance of a status quo. We're not in a situation anymore where anybody can come and buy a Championship team and think, right, do you know what, I'm going to chuck 300 million at that and get them up and contest the Premier League. It does seem those days are gone, and I think more's the shame, by the way. I'd always like to defend any club's right to show a bit of ambition. But anyway, it just looks like... It just looks like they're terrible. They are truly, truly terrible. And I felt a little bit bad yesterday after yesterday's game I said... what did I say? I said Danny Ings could have played in goal. And I felt a little bit bad about that until my old man and my son got back last night after the game, and they said Zippy, my dog, could have played in goal. So yeah, and I think the commentator did say that because it was Areola's birthday as well as Souček's. He said Areola could have gone out for a meal, and I was talking about that in the player ratings video on our Patreon with Gio, and I said I do think there was a point in the match where Areola probably could have taken his gloves off. He probably could have walked out the stadium, walked to Westfield, got himself a pizza, walked back and stood in the goal, and nothing would have happened. There would have been no goals let in or anything like that. So he could have got himself a birthday pizza. But anyway, it was about Todibo, really. I know he wasn't tested yesterday, but he certainly was tested against Arsenal. And he looks to be an absolute class act. He really does. If Potter's going to continue to play three at the back, and I think he will in most games, then I don't think West Ham can go out and buy a better central defender than this guy. Now, I'm a little bit dubious on some of this and on the construct of the deal. I do think there might be a little bit of skullduggerous business going on. I might be wrong. Are we going to flip him? What do I mean by flip him? Right, okay, so Man United wanted to buy him, or Juventus wanted to buy him, but Man United wanted to buy him first, and they couldn't buy him because Sir Jim Ratcliffe, who of course owns 25% of Man United and is the chief executive owner, major shareholder in Ineos. Ineos have 25% stake in Manchester United and a large stake in Nice, which of course is the Ligue 1 club who Todibo was signed from. So basically, that's the rules is rules. Man United cannot sign Todibo from Nice because there's a conflict of interest there. So, the rumour is that he's been parked at West Ham. So, basically, they so they can circumvent the rules. So, it goes from Nice to West Ham to Manchester United. What would be the benefit to West Ham? I can only think there was two benefits: monetary benefit, and I think there's obviously the benefit that you get a good player for a season. I think we should scupper him. If that is the deal, and we are going to try, and that was the deal to flip him, I think we should stitch him up. I do. I think West Ham should stitch up Manchester United. It has. I'd keep him. I'd keep him. Look, £35 million is a lot of money to pay, and we are contractually obliged to pay it, as long as we don't get relegated. Well, obviously, we're not getting relegated this season. So the loan deal from Nice to West Ham turns into a permanent transfer, £35 million. It is a lot of money, but we're not adverse to paying it. It's only a couple of £1 million more than we paid for Knife Gerd. We paid £25 million for Kurt Zouma. We paid £40 million for Max Kilman. So actually, when you look at it, West Ham are quite comfortable paying around that type of figure for a central defender. And I think as a right-sided central defender, I think he's really, really good. I'd like to see more from him, but he's had a falling out with. He had a bust up, didn't he, with Lopetegui? Maybe that's how he got injured. Maybe Lopetegui kicked him in the shin or something. I joke. I don't want anyone getting any illegal on me on that. I'm sure that didn't happen and that never happened. But he's had his fair share of injuries. I think How motivated are you going to be, by the way, to play for a coach that doesn't really like you and you've had a falling out with, even if it was just an argument or something like that? I don't know. I think things are different now, and I think he would thrive. It was hard to think of any defender thriving under Julen Lopetegui because he couldn't organise a defence, basically, could he? Yeah, certainly couldn't organise a defence and implement the tactics that he wanted to implement. There was some divide between doing the two. I quite like Max Kilman at centre-back. I think I had initially thought if we were going to play three at the back that Kilman would be a good left-sided centre-back. Do you remember he got that assist earlier on in the season? He sort of stormed down a pitch, didn't he? Laid it to Bowen, didn't he? Really good pass. Didn't lay it off. It was a bloody good pass. Long run, long pass to Bowen, really good. I think he's got the long passing. He's got the technique, Kilman. He's got a lot going for him. And I thought, left centre-back. But now I'm worried about how quickly he can turn, his mobility, maybe sort of, you've got to run back to goal, haven't you? You've got to run towards your own goal to do some recovery. And whilst I think Todibo has got a lot of class and I think he's got time on the ball, when he does get caught out, he can put the afterburners on. He actually did it in the game yesterday. And funny enough, he's running back into the channel. That channel that West Ham would keep on getting attacked down when we were under Lopetegui. If you go back and watch that Chelsea game, the London Stadium Chelsea game, and it just kept when Alvarez was sort of deployed in a dodgy position, and there was a gap between the right-sided centre back and Wan-Bissaka, and it was always there in Lopetegui, and we kept on getting attacked down that channel. Basically, that channel has been boarded up. It ain't there. There's not an avenue in which to constantly attack us down there anymore. And I think in that channel, Todibo is brilliant. I think he can bring the ball out of defence really well. I just think he's magnificent. Anyway, my point on Kilman was I'd actually keep Kilman at centre-back, Todibo at right centre-back. And certainly for the remainder of this season, well, Cresswell just stays there, doesn't he? I think we'd obviously have to look to buy somebody off at left centre-back. But I think we have to do that anyway, or we recall a Gerd. But why would we give ourselves another problem, which is we're not going to go out and get anybody better than Jean-Clair Todibo. This guy was the most. He used to be the future. He was the next up-and-coming thing. There's a very good reason why Barcelona paid money for him and brought him over. All right, it didn't work out. Some players take a little while longer to develop. Maybe he needed to leave Barcelona, go back to France and then have the experience of that. But he is. I just think he's top level. And he'll either play really, really well for West Ham or he'll go somewhere else. And I mean it to a top club and he'll absolutely thrive. He seems to be happy. He looks happy. He looks buzzing. I just wonder if we can try and get another season out of him and look to see if next season we could possibly qualify for Europe. West Ham are going to need to cash in. We need a little bit of cash from somebody. But does it really have to be him? I'm not so sure I really like him. The more I see, the more I like. And if there is this dodgy old flip situation where the old flipperoonie, and we are meant to, as like a gentleman's like, because it can't be official. There's nothing official here because you're not allowed to do it. So if Manchester United have arranged for him to be parked at West Ham for a season, it's got to be like an under the counter sort of, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, say no more, gentleman's handshake, and all the rest of it. I'd stitch him up. Why not? I mean, come on, it's sport, right? We've got to, how many times do other clubs stitch? Any club is capable of stitching any club up on a transfer, and I just think, I don't know. I don't think you could stop him doing it. If say the flipperoonie had been done with Liverpool, you couldn't stop him. You couldn't say, oh, actually you can't. Liverpool Champions League and all the rest of it. But Man United, I guess there's a wages thing going on, but that's it. That's all it could be is wages. I think you can probably appeal to him on that. There's no footballing reason to go to Manchester United. Manchester United are not a top 4 club. They're just not. But they're not even going to be in Europe, are they? There's no reason for Todibo to go there. Can't even make a comparison. It's like when Juventus are interested in Todibo. Oh, all right, fair enough, maybe. Not Man United. But there's no deal with Juventus. Apparently the deal is with Manchester United. No, I'm saying no now. I'm not in charge. I'm not West Ham chairman. If I was, I'd be having none of this, I tell you. But I like him. I like him. I think he's a quality operator. He needs to play between now and the remainder of the season. And I think if he does, he's obviously been very careful, 60 minutes, then a little bit longer against against Leicester last night. I was just thinking, he played 60 minutes against Arsenal, didn't he? A little bit longer against Leicester. I know he wasn't tested, but in many respects, a bit of a good training game, quite good for him. I don't think it matters. I think the more pressure he's put under, the better he'll perform. I think he just needs to be put in an infrastructure and in a system that was going to allow him to thrive. I think he's probably going to have that under Potter because, there were a lot of people didn't like what they saw last night, and it wasn't entertaining. It really wasn't. But as I say, I think if you factor in the context that you have someone who's just trying, and talking about Potter here, who's just trying to repair the defence and then probably assess the squad, I think we'll start to play differently next season. I don't mind it at all. And I think if he does that, he'll quickly come to the realisation that I think Todibo is a player that will thrive in his system. I think if he does that, I certainly think he will have enough clout at the end of the season to turn around the ownership and say, don't do it. Because at the end of the day, what do West Ham want to do? Do they care more about upsetting their manager or upsetting Manchester United? Clearly not going to upset their manager. And, hey, why wouldn't you want to upset Man U, eh?